How does imaging fit within the scope of the conservation projects done at NEDCC?
For materials that are, receiving conservation treatment, those are generally of significance to the institution that owns them. They're also of, probably some degree of kind of intrinsic value, rarity, uniqueness. So it might be manuscript like diaries. It could be relatively unique sort of cartographic materials, or it could be things that are just like large, complicated, difficult to handle blueprints, atlases, things like that. So on both of those fronts, those types of objects are high priorities for imaging from a client's perspective, in that they are unique and would have value, and there would be value in offering access to them digitally. On the other side, larger and more complex materials are difficult to handle, difficult to serve to patrons, and so for that reason they tend to be high priorities for imaging. And so when we are seeing those types of materials, which is often at NEDCC, those are the types of materials that clients are sending to us for treatment, there's often a compelling reason to have them digitized alongside the treatment. One advantage, I guess, of performing digitization alongside a conservation treatment is that we really get to see the object at the kind of most ideal time to perform that imaging. And that's kind of on two fronts. One is that it's going to look about as good as it's ever going to once it is coming out of a conservator's hands. So it's been cleaned, it's been mended, and so that really allows us to capture it with its best face forward. The other advantage to performing imaging alongside a conservation treatment is that in some cases, particularly with bound materials, we can really image it at a time that is safest for the object. So if something is being disbound, removed from its case, the sewing completely removed, then we've got separate individual bifolia that we can image, flat, so it makes imaging more expedient, but it's also just safer in that the kind of structure of the binding doesn't have to undergo, being, pages turned 300 times in order to digitize it. So there are advantages both in terms of the, sort of quality of the images that we can achieve if something is being conserved, and then also, not in all cases, but some cases, the imaging process is just sort of facilitated by the treatment itself. Another advantage of performing imaging alongside a conservation treatment is that the collections photographer can discuss the object directly with the conservator, the materials expert who has really spent the most time with that object at that point, and can kind of get a good feel for the limitations that object might pose even with treatment, the challenges that the photographer is going to face, just maybe due to a particularly tight binding or particularly brittle paper. So basically the conservator can kind of give the photographer a heads up on those kind of challenges that might just be intrinsic to the object, and the photographer can then kind of go into the imaging process with more information and kind of set up the process kind of knowing the limitations of the object. Often, though, we even have the advantage of having a conservator alongside us as we digitize. This isn't the norm, but for things that are complete, for things that are particularly challenging, complex, we are able to invite a conservator over to the imaging workstation where the digitization is happening. Having kind of another expert's set of hands available to perform that imaging is really helpful, both just for the process itself, but also for the safety of the object.